Um, Without further ado, we're about to bring in our first guest. Dum 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 dum. There he is. There he is. What's going on, sir?
How we doing?
Lorraine, introduce our guest.
Hey, today we have with us Councilman John Rubbo. He's a council member in the 4th District in the city of Yonkers, and he's actually up for re-election. So he's actually collecting signatures. Anybody out there in the 4th District, give him a holler if you need to sign his petitions.
Can I say one more thing since you said
Yeah.
signatures? So I got messages and I've been seeing on Facebook, and I want to say to every voter out there, people are coming up to you bringing petitions. Make sure the person who's bringing you the petition is the person who you are signing for, because I've been hearing about people collecting signatures for other people, their opponents, or whatever's going on. There's a whole bunch of funny enough stuff going on. Make them show you a piece of campaign literature. So if you don't know who that is, that's actually for your signature. So that person, you see their face matches the person's name that you're about to sign for. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on, and I haven't gotten to the bottom of it, but I've been getting a lot of calls over the last 2-3 days. So
That happens every
it's
year.
not just Mount Vernon. Yeah, it's not just and this specifically in Mount Vernon, but in several other places, Greenberg and several other places I'm hearing. So make sure you sign. And when the person asks you for your signature, if you don't know them, make them tell you who they are and why you should sign. Don't just hand over your signature. Your signature is valuable. Okay, I just wanted to, I get on that every year around election. I just want to, do my due diligence. So how are you, Councilman?
I'm good. Thank you for having me tonight.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it was great talking to you. We had a conversation briefly before the show, thanks to Lorraine, and it was good to know how you feel on certain things. And I look forward to getting to know you further. So first and foremost, for the people that don't know, who are you? Why are you running for re-election? And then part B of that is, why should they vote for you?
All right. All easy enough questions, I think. Well, thanks for having me. I am a lifelong resident of the city of Yonkers. I grew up near the Cross County Shopping Center over by Seminary Heights. I went to school, Catholic school in Yonkers, but I'm raising my family here. I started a business here in downtown Yonkers. I even used the name Yonkers in my business. Just
tell us the name of your business. Tell us the name of your business.
I don't want to start promotions.
No, that's okay. That's what this, get your little promotion on real quick.
No, and I appreciate that. So back in 2012, I started the Yonkers Brewing Company. And then
that's you. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And then in 2000,
I never knew that was you. Yeah.
Yeah. So all that delicious beer you drink, AJ, is mine. And then in 2015, on the Yonkers waterfront, we opened a brew pub, a restaurant, so you can come and see where we make the beer, have a variety of different types of food, and it's just really a really neat atmosphere for families to come and hang out. Pre-pandemic, we used to have a bunch of video games and board games and all sorts of stuff. And it was just a really fun, lively environment. So we're trying to, keep things moving. As you said, people are getting vaccinated or they've had the virus, and it's been a really tough year for people. So I think as we start seeing this summer of 2021 come up, I'm really hopeful and optimistic that we're going to start getting back to normal, whatever normal might be.
And that's if we stay diligent too. A lot of times, right. like that running back, he's ready to cross the goal line before he even actually catches the ball, and then he fumbles and they run it back to the other end. We don't want to fumble right now. This is too important. We don't want another surge. We want to do what we got to do and ride this out. And hopefully 4th of July, we all having cookouts like the president said, because I'm definitely looking to being at my sister's house and not being in Westchester the 4th of July. I'm going to tell you, it's been a minute. So, you know what I'm saying? So
it has.
So what is the name of the one? What's the name of the one on the riverfront? You said where you can.
So it's called Yonkers Brewing Company. It's Yonkers Brewing
Company.
Okay.
Right. Okay. And you can watch. You said you can watch the beer being made or something like that, or what?
Yeah, you can come and we'll give you a tour of all the tanks and where the beer is being made. Right now, I'm sitting in our laboratory at the brewery. I don't have any beer in here, so I'm all
right.
beer right now. But right in here is where we make it. It's packaged. We put it into cans. And so when people come, we try to give them a little bit of a tour of what's going on here.
I am definitely going to take that tour when things are safe to come back out. I am definitely. I just sounds interesting. I've never done that before. Go and play, just watch the beer being made and packaged and all that. I definitely got to put that on my bucket list. So yeah.
All right. Maybe we can have a show live from the brewery.
hey, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
So okay, so we got your businesses and
yeah. So I've born and raised in Yonkers. As corny as it sounds, Yonkers is my life. I'm raising my kids here. My wife and I are raising our kids here, and this is our home. So out of college, and this is kind of where I ran into Lorraine. I had an opportunity to work for the city of Yonkers years and years ago, and I worked for a previous mayor's administration, and just got to know the feel of the people of Yonkers. As big of a city as we are, we're really a small, tight-knit community. The people who are active, everyone knows one another. You cross paths so many different times, and then that's where Lorraine and I really met.
And after that day of meeting Lorraine, your life has never been the same, huh? Like
it's been better ever since. No, yeah, Lorraine and I go back. And
I watched him grow up to be the man he is today.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. So I really enjoy being a Yonkers City Council person. It's like anything challenging, but I really have a great district because my district literally provides so many jobs for not only the people of Yonkers, but for the people of Westchester and even parts of the Bronx. So in my district includes Cross County Shopping Center, which has thousands of jobs. In my district is Empire City Casino, which has about 1,200 jobs. I cover McLean Avenue, which all of the bars and restaurants and shops from Bronx to River Road, all the way down to South Broadway. So my district actually cuts off just around School 13, which is just about, I'd say, maybe a quarter of a mile to South Broadway on McLean Avenue. And I cover everything, in between. So I like to say I have the best district in the city. But don't tell my colleagues.
So now, since you have a lot of businesses in your district, especially some of the small ones and bars and stuff, and COVID ravished a lot of small businesses, what were you able to do to be of service of your businesses to help them stay active, stay open, and be able to reopen?
So during the early parts of the pandemic, I stayed in close contact with a lot of those bars and restaurants, and certainly as I was getting information about my own establishment, I was able to share it with some others. So we were able to talk through PPP loans and the emergency EDIL, I think it was called, grants and loans that were available. Now there's so much more that's coming out and the information is rolling. I'll say the federal government acted quickly, and we're all trying to figure this thing out at the same time, right? No one's experienced a pandemic like this before. The government hasn't, business hasn't, families haven't, and so we're all learning kind of quickly as we go along. And so we just my goal was to get as much information out there as possible. And then try to make it easy to do business, not only here in Yonkers, but during the pandemic, just to try to figure out how can we make it easy for outdoor seating? How can we allow you to put up a tent? And how do we not knock you over the head with all sorts of fees and whatnot? So the city really stepped up, and Mayor Spano, helped us in doing so. And take, for example, out in front of my business, I would normally pay about between $1,400 and $1,600 a year for a permit to put tables out in front of my business. Last year, during the pandemic, the mayor said $50 filing fee, and that's it. That's all businesses have to pay. So, businesses like mine, like, restaurants on South Broadway, restaurants on McLean Avenue, restaurants on Yonkers Avenue, like DeCosta's, we were able to just file a $50 filing fee and put tables and tents and everything outside. So it worked so well that I'm now working with the administration here in Yonkers, and we're going to bring a group of businesses together, and we're going to figure out how to just do this forever. People enjoy sitting outside. There are a lot of restaurants that want to invest in outdoor, structures, so that this way they can have something a little bit longer through the season, protect out for the rain. So I think, we're going to head in the right direction to continue helping businesses.
I hope that, I say we're in a new normal. I hope that is something that does continue, and people invested a lot of money to do that during COVID, and we continue doing some of that outdoor stuff. I think that's important as well. So what made you decide to run for re-election, and why should people vote for you? We got back off track with that.
Yeah. So why did I want to run for re-election? I just genuinely love Yonkers, and I love helping people, and so as elected officials, people will often ask, especially now with the days of Facebook and Instagram and all these things, if it's almost like if you're not posting it there, you haven't done it. And sometimes I think that's unfair, because we just want to be able to help people sometimes. And it might be that phone call about, hey, how do I get this permit? Or, hey, this week I received a phone call from a constituent of mine, and they have a handicapped child. And during the snowstorms, they shoveled the snow out in front of the house, and they put a garbage pail in front of the house so no one would take their spot, because they needed to be able to get their child in and out to the bus to be able to go to their special needs school. And they got a ticket. They got a ticket because it's illegal, technically, in the city of Yonkers to put a garbage pail out and save your spot. And so, just something like that would come across my desk, and we can try to figure out a solution on not only being able to help this family, but be able to help other families like this, so that this way, this doesn't happen again to a family in need. So it's those types of stories that I really genuinely enjoy working with the people that, live in our community. And we really do have such a great city. There's so many people who are active, who get involved. I saw Maddie's name popping up here. Someone like that who just is contributing back to continue giving back to make our community and neighborhood better. So those are the things I enjoy, and that's why I want to continue to serve. Before I made a couple promises 4 years ago. I'd like to think I delivered those. So one was delivering on infrastructure, right? So, when you live in a city or you live somewhere and you're paying taxes and you want to see, nice roads, you want to see where your money's going. And often when we invest 30, 40, $50 million to repair, our 100-year-old sewer lines or water lines or infrastructure, it's all under the ground, right? We see the city chopping up the roads, but then we really don't see where the money goes. And so what I really tried to focus on is a lot of road pavings, because when you go out and you're driving on a fresh road, all right, that's where my money's going. In working with our public works department in my district, my district right now is the only district we're going to be experimenting with this new paving. But what they do is we can pave in a different format almost 4 to 5 times as many streets with the same amount of money. And so it just, goes to help improve your quality of life and things like that. And then number 2, which is really important to me, is schools. I made a promise early on that I would continue to fight for our schools. My child goes to a Yonkers public school. Yonkers public schools, I feel like, are the last big piece to our puzzle. Our schools do so many great things, we don't tell the story well enough. You know, we tell a story about $4 billion of economic development, buildings going up, jobs being created, people moving in, but we don't tell the story of all the great work our kids are doing and our teachers are doing, and our administrators are doing. And that's where I think that's that last big piece of the puzzle.
I want to say one thing, and then I want to let Lorraine, I'm sure she has a series of questions. I'm actually, and I don't say this, I'm glad that I actually don't live in Yonkers, because y'all would have got tickets from me all the time. I have 2 women that live in the house. They don't have nobody in the wheelchair. And when you got to shovel all that snow, and I shovel and clear them spots, I put them garbage cans in front of the house too, because people just come in and they didn't shovel and they take your spot. Now I got to shovel for the women in my house. One is a first responder, a healthcare worker, works late, and she comes home. I don't want to be going out there midnight to re-shovel up and open up another hole. And we didn't clear this space. We did our part. So yeah, y'all would get a lot of tickets from me, because that's what we do. We shovel that up and we put some cans out there and kind of dare people to park there. Like, yeah,
exactly. I know.
Not taking them spots. Yeah.
There's nothing worse than coming home and seeing your spot gone.
Right. So Mount Vernon, don't listen to Yonkers. Keep doing the things the way you're doing and do not change. Please. Because yeah, we would get a lot of tickets here. Lorraine Lopez, anything, like a lot of people say I'm well versed in Mount Vernon because I live here. When there's Yonkers issues and things going on in Yonkers, and I hear something and I get a call, one of the first things I do is call Lorraine, because she has been my, for lack of a better word, ghetto tour guide through politics in Yonkers. So I have to turn the mic over to her and let her ask about some Yonkers issues.
Hey, John, we have a COVID vaccination site in the city of Yonkers. Can you tell us a little bit about it and how's it going?
Absolutely. So the governor announced that they were putting a mass COVID vaccination site in Yonkers. And the first week they restricted it to a few zip codes in Yonkers and Mount Vernon, because they wanted to hit or give access to some of the hardest hit areas locally. And the first week or so, people went in and out, and now it's open up to really everyone in the county that would qualify under the guidelines for the state. And it's gone fantastic from what I understand. Yeah. My mother went up. My brother was up there. I have some employees under restaurant guidelines who were able to get up there. Senior citizens from my community that I know went up there. People here in the first council district where my business is that I know have gone up there. I think they've done, if I'm not mistaken, over 100,000 vaccination. Is it 100,000? No, excuse me. It was 10,000 vaccinations within about the first week.
Okay.
They're really I bet you they can do up to 2,000 a day if they wanted to, but it's about having access to the vaccines. Right. So from what I understand from everyone who's gone, the process is so seamless. They get online, they check in, they show their email confirmation, they go and get vaccinated, they wait 15 minutes, and they're out. Most people are not even there for an hour, which is great. And everyone I talk to, everyone I see posting on social media about it, they rave about how easy it is to come in and out.
I've been there about 6 times since it opened with different people. I didn't get my shot there. I wish I would have. But I've been there about 6 times with different people. And the longest wait you actually have is to 15 minutes waiting to see if there's any adverse reactions. And every single time I go to every single soldier. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. I get so excited because it overwhelms me with emotion. The National Guard and FEMA are doing an amazing job. Kudos to them because it is working extremely, extremely well. What do you see is going to be probably the biggest obstacle for you as a city council member once COVID is over? We've got to rebuild somewhat. What are we rebuilding?
So there's going to be a lot of challenges. Number one, we have to stay. optimistic and prepared to help businesses, right? Because the last thing we want is to have gone through this pandemic and yet, businesses then start to shutter and shut their doors. That will make an impact economically. Already, we've seen just in the last year, more than a $40 million drop off in revenue to the city of Yonkers because of the pandemic. And that hurts because now we're trying to make that back up, but we'll really never make it back up. It's great to have some of the money that's coming down from the federal government. Luckily, we have really great representatives that are working hard to send the local governments money directly, which is important, but that's only a one-time infusion of cash, right? So you can't settle labor contracts with that money. You can't do this large infrastructure projects with that money. It becomes a challenge, right? Because you want that money to last you as long as you can to try to deal with some of these major hiccups we've had. And so we've had really major hiccups. So we need to take a look at this budget in particular. And as you know, Lorraine, the budgets in Yonkers never get easier. My first year on the city council, our healthcare cost alone for city employees and school employees went up $15 million. $15 million. So where do you find that money from? If you were to raise taxes just on that, it would cost you 7% on tax increases just for healthcare costs. Forget about contractual raises, cost of living increases, minimum wage increases. So we definitely have a challenge. I'm hopeful that the state of New York will help us in the school system, but I think that's one of our biggest challenges. But what I just found out this past Thursday, which I think is going to be the absolute most serious issue we're going to deal with, is depression and suicidal thoughts from our school children. So, as most people know, the school district gave out thousands of computer devices to kids to work at home, right? And so the Board of Education in Yonkers tracks what's downloaded on those computers, where the kids are searching on the internet, because they want to make sure that the kids aren't doing something that might be inappropriate. And 27.8% of students, as they were tracked, were searching for suicidal ideation, meaning how to commit suicide. That is devastating. There was another large percentage of kids who were searching for depression or about depression. So the Board of Education is working on this. As soon as they found out about this, they're dealing with it. They came across a young girl not just about a week or two ago, I believe, that was literally standing on the roof of her building. And they called the family, and the family didn't even know she was up there. They alerted the police department, and the police department was there to help talk this girl down. This is going to be probably our most serious issue that we're going to have to deal with. And when you're talking about a school district like Yonkers that has maybe one psychologist or therapist in the schools for thousands of kids, it's not going to be enough. And that's going to be a place that we really need to focus on.
AJ, turn on your mic.
Yeah. Mental health. I'm glad you spoke on that. That has been a problem in our communities before COVID. And COVID made it a bigger issue. COVID just shed more light on it, and it's something that I've been saying that we need to do in our community. And we don't think about our children, and even that I've said on this show and other shows, staying home all the time, working at home, not having really human interactions with people and stuff. I've had my moments, my little bouts where I just didn't really want to be around people. I didn't want to really do nothing. I wasn't suicidal or anything, but I was still having my little, little depression or whatever. It's crazy. And so I say that check on your children, check on your seniors, check on your neighbors, because you never know what someone is going through, because there are so many people suffering in silence because of the stigma that has, so they don't want people to know. So, check on everybody. And we have a question from a listener, Gail Baxter. Shout out to Gail Baxter. She said, question for John. What are your views regarding the homelessness problem, one, and what are some of the problems that challenge fixing that problem?
That's a great question. And homelessness, although I think was a little bit more prevalent in areas on the west side, have now become, an issue citywide, and not as maybe drastic as some communities like New York City or San Francisco that we see where they're setting up these tent communities. But homelessness is an issue, and not to pass the buck on this one, but homelessness and homeless is a topic that Westchester County is responsible for.
Thank you.
Now, the city of Yonkers, I think we do our part. We have a grant that the administration has been looking at trying to invest in opening another site where the homeless have a resource, but it just can't be a building. And our police department have recognized that. Commissioner Mueller actually mentioned just this past week to the city council that as they've been more and more involved in working with the homeless, they would ask some people, well, why won't you go into the shelter? And they'll say, well, look, I bring my book bag or I bring my cart. And if I just put it in there, I can't lock it up. People are going to steal my stuff. Okay, so now they were able to invest in lockers that are locked up, and they could put their stuff away. And it just gives people a little bit more sense of security when they go in there. But still, we need to work with people. And I talk to a lot of people, in our downtown that are homeless. And I think the challenge is that we're not offering enough mental health support and substance abuse support. We're not offering enough support to be able to work with people. And then the biggest challenge of it all is people need to want to participate in that, right? So if they don't want to participate, and believe it or not, there are people who rather sleep on the street than go in the shelter, even when it's 5 degrees outside. Sadly, we had a death in the city of Yonkers of a homeless person who froze to death. And this past winter. And so it's devastating, but we need a real concerted group effort to solve this. It shouldn't just be the county's responsibility, but right now it is. So we need the county to put, more than just 1 or 2 resources here. We need a very focused, committed effort to be able to work on this.
Maddie is talking about tiny houses and a farmer's market. And she has a petition she's asking people to sign too.
So I've seen the tiny houses concept. Tiny houses. I think there's a lot of. So why tiny houses? Tiny houses is a way to help with affordable housing. It's a way to help people with who are homeless. To give them a safe, secure place to live. Right now, I think there hasn't been much of an effort to think about the zoning of that. Right? I think where tiny houses work as more of a larger community, you have larger plots of land that you could designate. Unfortunately, in Yonkers, we don't have these large plots of land that we could set aside, city-owned land, that we could set aside and look to plop up, 25, 30 tiny houses. What we do have is smaller, much smaller non-buildable lots, that sit around the city that the city tries to sell off for revenue. Maybe there's some way where we could try to reinvest that revenue into other land to try to, address some of that. But I like the concept.
I've seen that. I've seen that going around a lot lately. As always, especially when we deal with Yonkers, Gail Baxter always has some thought-provoking questions. So she has a couple of questions more for you. One was, okay, I read that one. As the chair of the real estate committee, why is the ongoing housing development concentrated in densely populated neighborhoods on the west side? Example along the congested Walburton Avenue corridor. Why not areas on the east side?
So there's a couple things to that question. So number one is what you're seeing built on Warburton is a lot of municipal housing that's being rebuilt. And so almost all 2,000 units across the city of Yonkers of municipal housing, and that's all run by the Municipal Housing Authority of Yonkers, that's all being rebuilt. You do see some other stuff that's been built on this side, like the Simmons brothers had built some stuff on Warburton Avenue.
I remember them well.
Right, remember? And I think James still lives in the trolley barn where the brewery's located, so I see him all the time. But so it's really, when it comes to private affordable housing, it's really wherever someone wants to build it. It's free enterprise. When you're talking about the affordable housing ordinance, which I think Gail also referenced, that's really wherever there is market rate construction, right? So market rate construction is the new buildings on the waterfront, the Ginsburg project on Downing Street down by Ludlow, the buildings on Main Street, the towers that went up. That's all market rate. Those are rented out for a lot more than I can afford. And as part of building those, they have to build affordable housing within it. So why are we concentrating that affordable housing on the west side? Because that's where the ordinance pushes them into those buildings that are market rate. Now in my district on McLean Avenue, just by the entrance to the Sawmill Parkway and Park Hill, there's a developer coming in. He's going to build I think between 70 and 100 units of senior affordable housing. So it's being built across the city. It's just, really, it depends on the type that's being built. Private developers will build wherever they want. Could be the east side, could be the west side. And the market rate developers where the ordinance affects is mostly on the west side where the building is.
Lorraine?
What's your opinion on increasing the affordable housing requirement to 20% as opposed to 10?
So I'm okay with 20% if 20% works, right? So as long as we still have people coming in to build and they say 20% will still allow us to build and make a profit, or there are programs available to us. See, Yonkers and basically everything outside of New York City is different. New York City is an animal of its own. New York City, because of their vast property tax base, they can offer or demand 80-20, which means 20% affordable. And they can give these 30-year, property tax discounts because they have billions of dollars coming into their budget from property taxes. Yonkers doesn't have that same tax base. So we can't offer necessarily the same discounts as New York City can. Now, with that said, White Plains just changed their ordinance and they went to 12%. They went from 10 to 12. Now, Yonkers right now is at 10. I don't know that I necessarily want to look at the percentage, like 20%, 30%, 10%, as much as I want to ask a question is, who are we trying to help, right? So are we trying to keep young families here? Families of one, families of four, families of three.
Talk about that, yeah.
Right? Are we trying to keep them here? Because if we are, the affordable housing ordinance has been proposed. It doesn't help them. Because what we're saying is, okay, Mr. Developer, you're building 400 units on the waterfront. 20% of your units have to be affordable. Okay, well, most of what they're building are studios and 1 bedrooms, a couple 2 bedrooms. If you're lucky, there's 3 bedrooms in the building. But the market, right, the people who are coming to live in those, the market calls for studios and 1 bedrooms. So you're not going to you don't want to squeeze a family of 4 into a 1 bedroom. And sometimes you have to, but in this case, we're trying to give people an opportunity, give them a comfortable place to live. Let's not squeeze them into a 1 bedroom. So I don't think the ordinance addresses that, but the city of Yonkers is investing $100,000 in a firm that has written affordable housing ordinances for Detroit, New Orleans, and other places. And so they're coming in. We should have a report back from them in the next 4 weeks, and they're going to tell us, okay, this is what we think the market can bear. This is what we think builders will build. This is what we think will help your community. Now, I'm advocating to take this all a step further, and that the city continue to invest in this firm to tell us other ways to bring in, to make it more viable to build affordable housing, to have more people like Conifer or West Half or other affordable developers to come in and build, so that this way, works for everyone. I mean, we need more affordable housing, but I don't think this ordinance addresses it all.
One of the things I've asked several municipalities, when these developers come into your town, your city, and they're building, what I would like to see more of is, as part of the arrangement, the agreement, they have to hire X amount of percentage of people from that municipality. So you're not just, because you're coming here, you're making money, and and all of that. That's another way of helping the city. That's if you're really trying to do something for the city. That's a good way of helping the city help. And buying stuff from local stores, like if there's the local hardware store or something, like getting some of then you're putting money. You're not just coming here to make money.
Like local beer.
You're putting money into the business. Yeah, you're putting money in some of the businesses. You're hiring some of the local. Homeless is a problem. Unemployment is a big problem as well. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if you have any thoughts of that or have done anything like that. So.
Yeah, so I completely agree with you, because that money then is just getting reinvested into the community. Right. That benefits everyone. It benefits the business owner. It benefits the developer. It benefits the city of Yonkers because of sales tax. It creates jobs. So I completely agree with you. And I think how you get there is you need to have open and good, solid communication with the developers and get those commitments in writing, get those commitments verbally. They need to be investing in our community, and hiring from the community, right? When it comes to construction jobs. And I know, I'm pro-labor, and I want to see as much local union labor working on these buildings as possible. But the fact is that, when you hire a local union electrician, there are times maybe those electricians live in Rockland County, right? And so they're not necessarily from Yonkers. They're not necessarily from Mount Vernon. I think we need to continue to do a better job at putting the people who live in our cities to work.
Right. Absolutely. Hector Santiago had a question. Has there been an attempt to reach outside of Yonkers for developers whom are building affordable housing, and if so, how?
So I don't know what process the city goes through, or the administration, the mayor's office would go through to try to solicit developers to come and look within Yonkers. There are lots of affordable housing developers who work right over the line in the Bronx. We should be having conversations with them. I don't know exactly what conversations are being had by the mayor's office. Although I can talk about this all day long, ultimately it comes down to the administration to execute it. I would like us to see, and maybe this is the first place I'm saying this, I would like the city over the next few years to make a commitment through our budget And maybe we could set aside, I don't know the number, 250,000, 500,000, more, I don't know. But let's come up with a number that we could set aside as part of our capital budget and allow that money to be used to incentivize affordable developers to come and build here. And we can build more housing, we can get more people interested, and Yonkers, we will be investing too. We will be putting that money in as an investment or an incentive to get people to come and build. And more important than that, and I know AJ, we spoke about this a little bit, is I would like us to see like staged affordable housing, where maybe you go from municipal housing to an affordable unit in one of these new buildings. From the affordable unit, maybe now you go into a program, and we talked about this, where we have affordable home ownership, right? Because from that affordable home ownership, maybe you have that family of 4 and you're living there for 10, 15 years. Now your kids are going to college. You could use the equity from that house to be able to help send your kids to school. It's your retirement. It just continues to help progress families, along. And that to me is the American dream.
Absolutely. Lorraine, any questions?
Are we gonna get the Riverfest back?
I hope so. So one of the things that I did, and Richard Halevy, Lorraine. Yeah. So Richard and I worked on Riverfest when I first was working.
I remember. That's right? Why I asked you when is it coming back?
Yeah, before all these buildings were on the waterfront, I remember the first guy I got to hire was Jose Feliciano. But we've had so many great artists, and now it's kind of morphed into this music and arts festival.
Artsy, yes. And people from all over the county come. Everybody, people look forward to it. Yeah.
And it is a fun day. We've been fortunate with the weather the last couple of days, but I'm hoping 2021 allows us, if we're willing, if we're able, by July and August, like you said, AJ, 4th of July, Lorraine, Riverfest, or the festivals at Trevor, or the Fall Festival on McLean Avenue. Hopefully we can start getting back into that in a responsible way.
Is there anything I did not ask you that you want to discuss, a platform or your record? Again,
No, well, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. I can talk and talk. I always tell people, when they're interviewing me, I can talk and talk and talk. Because there's so much to talk about in Yonkers, whether it's, the good things we're doing to bring jobs or housing or businesses, small businesses especially, and our schools. And that's something we need to continue to tell people, the great things that our school kids are doing. But I think, as we talked about earlier, we need to make a shift and make sure that our kids are safe. We need to make sure that our kids have an outlet, a place that they can come and talk to adults that can help them if they're in need of help. We have a lot on our hands in the next couple years, and we really need to band together to be able to solve for some of that.
I may have asked you some form of this, but I will ask Maddie's question. Since you've been in office, what have you done to better Yonkers for all of the residents? And are you willing to work more closely with the community, whether it be weekly town halls or meet and greets, to come up with solutions if elected again?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always willing to get together and sit down with people. Over the summer, I hosted a series of town halls where I tried to get a few different commissioners or people to come and speak about the things that they were doing, and just communicate a message, get a message out there. Because the one thing that happens often in any community is rumors, right? And rumors are sometimes so dangerous. And I've been talking to so many parents just this past weekend who heard rumors about, we're going to have school up until August 1st and only give the kids a few days off over the summer. We're going to force Saturday school on kids. We're going to, just all of these things that parents have heard. So I always try to have, be open and transparent. When I first came into office, I started coffee with the councilman. I tried to do beer with the councilman, but I didn't want the liability. So now we just do coffee with the councilman. And we had a couple people who would come and we just talk about things. If there's something we can solve, I'm always going out to different community meetings or hopping on Zooms for community meetings.
Yeah.
I only represent one side of the city, but I'm always open ears for, people all over the city.
And this I'm asking everyone in all the municipalities. So in a couple of weeks, the governor came up is requesting all of the municipalities, all the cities, towns, villages, to come up with a police reform committee and report and everything, and it has to be handed in with, I guess, April 1st. How is the city of Yonkers doing with theirs?
So the city had, or the city council had about almost 2.5 hour meeting on Zoom that was publicly broadcasted the other day with our police commissioner, John Muller. And this is to review the recommendations from the police reform committee that was formed by the mayor. And they came up with a series of things and recommendations and offered them up to the city council to accept, approve, and pass along. And John Muller really had all positive things to say. And he said, look, John said, I did not want to serve on the police reform committee because John is going to be the one responsible for implementing those changes. So he's tried to stay on the outside, just looking in like the rest of us. But I think the committee's done a fantastic job at coming up with really great recommendations. Everything seemed very reasonable. And so we're going to pass those along to the police department for implementation. Now, I will say this, the Yonkers Police Department, over the last, little over a decade, had the Department of Justice here, Federal Department of Justice here in the city of Yonkers. And they were looking at our police department. And this is under, President Obama's. This is President Obama's Department of Justice that were here diving in, looking at processes. And they ripped things up and they made Yonkers a better police department. I think we are very unique when it comes to our police department. We have a department that, they continuously do pizza with a cop, pizza with a police officer, coffee with the cop, and all of these different things to have community engagement. They're out there working with kids. When the schools were really open, they were out there with the school kids. Keith Olson, the PBA president, was out every Friday and Saturday with the football team, the force, working with the kids, buying them dinner, serving them dinner, talking to them if they needed, to talk. We have a police department that is engaged with the community.
Yes, we do.
Right, and so we've done a lot of things well. So we can always improve, and that's what Commissioner Muller said. We can always improve. But to kind of tie Yonkers into all these other police departments that have stains on them, I think would be unfair. And that's why Yonkers is in a little bit more of a unique place because of what we went through with the Department of Justice. So I'm really proud of the men and women in our police department. The one thing we are going to continue to commit to, and this started when I was working for the city many years ago, is trying to, we always say it. We want our police department, our city workforce to look and feel like the community, right? But you can't force it. You can't force it. It has to be organic. You have to encourage people to take the test. We'll help you study for the test. But if people don't want to become police officers or firefighters, then they don't want to, right? We don't want to force it, because the minute we force it, then maybe we send the department in a direction that maybe we're not too excited where, what the result's going to look like down the road. We just need to support the kids who want to take the test.
I will. I'm adding in our co-host is here, Dr. Bob. I will say, for the record, though, I do agree with a lot of what you said. I know that Yonkers Police is definitely trying to hire more persons of color because both the police department and the fire department from Yonkers have both come on the show when they were doing recruiting, and they both taken out ads to full page ads to advertise the test, and like I said, they come on the show and talk about the test and why they should take the test and encourage community of colors to come. But no matter how good everybody thinks they're doing, there's still some distrust in communities of color overall of police. And with that said, I know so far, as far as I know, no municipality in Westchester has a CCRB. When there is a complaint, not saying there's a bunch of complaints now, but in place when there is a complaint, if I've been abused by the police or whatever, the last place I want to go to file is the police department. I may not even trust them. And there's no active CCRB. I want to know if that's something you're thinking about implementing with these new reforms, or is that a discussion? Because as far as I know, no. Now Vernon has it in there. They passed it, but they don't have it funded or whatever yet. But as far as I know, there's no active CCRB in Westchester County, as far as I know.
So Yonkers doesn't have a CCRB, but what we do have is we have a committee that's made up of civilians and some police officers, and they field the complaints that come in, and we work with the department's investigative unit or internal affairs to be able to look through these types of things. But you're right. If you have something in place, you need to make sure it's funded. What you also need to do, I think, is to make sure that you have police personnel or people familiar with the process, right? So familiar with the process of arrest, familiar with the process of handling a person that's been arrested or dealing with someone. I'm happy to see now that we have the body cameras, because I think that will help in both sides to really to be transparent. But I agree. I think some form of a civilian complaint review board is important. We have the basis for it here in Yonkers, and I think the police reform committee has made some recommendations on how to expand it a little bit. And Commissioner Muller said that he thinks anyone who sits on this, any civilian who sits on this, could go through the Civilian Police Academy that the city of Yonkers runs, and it just it trains people. And I think Majority Leader Corazon Pineda had done this at one time, where you just go through the process and learn what a police officer does and the laws, and you do a ride along. I haven't done it yet, but apparently at the end they tase you, which I don't want to do.
We don't want that. No.
Other than that, then it's good, because it just has everyone have a little bit of a basic understanding of what what they're going to be working on under the CCRBs.
Now I'm going to wrap this up shortly because our next guest is already in the green room. Dr. Bob, welcome him to the show. I know he was watching part of the show. Briefly, Bob, because we're about to close out, did you have a question for the councilman or something before he goes?
Not necessarily. Welcome, Councilman. It was a pleasure listening to the discussion that you had with AJ and Lorraine. Certainly, I wish you well on your re-election endeavors, and not particularly AJ. Of course, like the councilman, I'm never short of words, but
right.
I got.
Okay, Lorraine. Last question, because we have our guest coming.
It's not a question. I've got something I want to say, and it's going to take me just about a minute, AJ. John, because I want people to not only to know about your ethics as a councilman, as a businessman, my dogs are fighting, but also the type of human being you are. Now, I've known you for practically most of your life. And when I say I'll take a bullet for you, I mean I'll take a bullet for you because I love you that much. 10 years ago, and this is something I've never said publicly, 10 years ago, I was broken. I was broken, John. I had charges that I was not in the right state of mind to defend. My house that I had just burnt down. I was homeless with 2 children, 5 dogs. I was sick. I was dying. I was 84 pounds. Everyone turned their back on me, John. Everyone. One day, when we talk about suicide, I was there. I was there. And one day, I took my dog Domino, who's still with me, by the way. I said, let me take a walk to the River Fest because I needed to see people. But I knew nobody would recognize me because I was 84 pounds, no hair, dying. So I walked over to the River Fest and I saw a woman, a Latina leader that I knew and loved and was very close to. And I saw her and I went to hug her and she jumped back like if I was a leper. She's still around. She worked for a senator's office. And right then and there, I was destroyed. I said, I can't come back. So I'm walking to leave the River Fest. You was talking to 2 gentlemen, John. You turned around, you saw me, and you said like this to the guys, and you came over to me. And you grabbed me, and you hugged me, and you asked me if I was okay. That was everything to me, John. And I want the people to know that you are an amazing human being. And I will always be eternally grateful for you for that. You didn't know, but you made a difference in my life. And I love you and I thank you for that. I'm sorry, I got triggered today. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. That's real talk. I do want to.
I'm back though. I'm a badass again. But I was joking. I just want to be clear with that.
I just wanted to read something that Gail said before you go. She said, correction, the Department of Justice issued the Yonkers Police Department a technical letter under the administration of George Bush, not Obama, and the settlement was canceled by Donald Trump's Department of Justice. So I'm not sure. I have to look that up, but I just wanted to bring that out just because if that's what it was. But any last words? How do people reach you? Social media, website?
Sure. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm reachable by email. It's all the social media handles are Councilman John Rubbo. I have a website, councilmanjohnrubbo.com. And my email address at the City of Yonkers is john.rubbo@yonkersny.gov. The telephone number up there is 914-377-6314. And anything I can do to help really anyone in Yonkers. If you need something, please feel free to give me a ring.
And if you live in his district, please reach out so that you can sign his petition.
Thank you.
One of a Facebook user, but they're not signed into Facebook, so it just says Facebook user. I don't have a name. They said, I am heartbroken listening to Lorraine. Thank you, John. No, they said thank you, John, for what you did for
good.
Lorraine.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, John.
That's what they were saying. Go ahead, Bob, and then we're going into our next guest, Nadine. Yes.
That was actually Carmen Gomez Goldberg.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah.
Carmen.
Sometimes when I don't know why some names show up and some don't. Some just say Facebook user, and if I'm not on the page that they're on, I can't see the name. So thank you, Carmen.
You got a hell of a fan club, by the way. I'm watching the people. You're pretty popular.
So last comment. Maddie says one of the only people who volunteered his time to cut the part for my foundation.
Yeah, so
such a stand-up. So
yeah,
thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No.
No, go ahead if you were going to.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. We tried to help Maddie there. She has a big overgrown park that we're going to finish cutting all the rest of the weeds and overgrowth this year. So I just want to thank you guys all for having me on tonight. It's always a pleasure. And to my friend Lorraine, I appreciate the kind words. At the end of the day, we try to give of ourselves to, our community and our friends, and there's no reason to turn our backs on each other. It's I don't know.
You're a good guy.
Words, Lorraine.
You're a good guy. You're an excellent council member, and you deserve re-election.
I want to thank you for coming. I want to thank you for taking the time to come on the show. If and when you're reelected, I hope that you utilize this forum when you need to get a word out to deal with the issue and get a word out to the people. And best of luck.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, everyone.
Absolutely.